And in your case, because you believe in the relationship, you see the presence. That's interesting. All right. And so, a little bit curious if we can just expand on this idea a bit of the relationship of seeing and believing. What do you think is the relationship between those two concepts?
Directly proportional.
So in your case, the degree to which you believe something, to that degree you see something.
True.
Okay. The opposite is also true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
No, that's totally cool. So I use this image because the belief that we have affects what we see. So for those that saw the Instagram post, there's this picture of how many of us saw the old lady? Well, how many of us can see both? How many ladies? How many of us saw the old lady first? Okay, how many of us saw the young lady first? I'm guessing everybody else. Okay, yeah, okay. Who struggled to see the other person in this picture? Okay, yeah. The first time I saw this picture, I've seen it so many times now, I'm a bit conditioned to it, but the first time, yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle to go out of one frame of mind, and somebody goes ahead, for those of you that saw a young lady first, and somebody goes and says, no, this is an old lady. Like, what are you talking about? She's one of the best aged old ladies I've ever seen. Like, and then when somebody points out the contours of the other person, suddenly, oh, I believe you. I have some implicit faith that there's an old lady in this picture, and now I can see it. Because I've gone in with that supposition that maybe this person is telling something true. So there's an element of trust in the person giving us that information. Arjuna had that same situation in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. He experienced a challenge. He started off by coming in full martial spirit. I'm going to fight them. We're going to win. We're going to get our kingdom. Go Pandavas. And in that valiant spirit, he instructs Krishna, as his chariot driver, to go to the middle of the battlefield. And he told Krishna, I want to size up the enemies. I want to see who has come to fight me. And then, what happens when he starts to see who has come to fight him? He sees friends that he grew up with, relatives that he grew up with, teachers, other people that played important roles in their lives. And what happened? He started getting a little confused. What he was seeing started to affect his belief that maybe this war isn't worth it, and that fighting spirit started to dissipate. So, what changed? What was Arjuna's faith? So the entirety of the Bhagavad Gita is an affirmation of the faith, that underlying faith that led to that war in the first place. And so when we look at this conversation, because Arjuna gave some very reasonable sounding arguments about why it's not a good idea to fight this war. So he was prepared to go to the forest, to live as a sage, to live as a hermit, give up any thoughts of any kind of kingdom, even a village. Like, no, I'll just go to the forest. I'm retired. I'm done. This is not worth fighting for. So that was him trying to reconcile what he was seeing, the shakeup of his belief, and the conclusion of what his intelligence took him to. So there were some problems there. And Krishna was reminding him of his dharma, his responsibilities, his duty, and that he should not shy away from it. He had a choice whether to run away from it and just let things happen, or to fight and live in adherence with his dharma. So in a similar way, we have a certain way of seeing the world. And that way that we see the world affects our values, affects our beliefs. And in turn, what you were bringing up, Mohit, the beliefs reinforce what we see, what we have a vision for. So I'm going to ask you all a challenge. Prove to me that God exists. Who can do that? I don't see Shambhavi. I don't believe she's here. Yeah. All right, who wants to? Because we'll start with the show of hands. How many of us believe that God exists? Okay. So prove it.
I mean, you can make analogies too, but it's depending on who you're talking to. If the other person doesn't.
You're talking to me.
Yeah.
Prove it.
You already believe what this.
What? No, I don't.
Yeah, so it's like the kind of analogies, like even science is based on philosophy, like that's where the word root comes from. So if you can make parallels, but it depends on the receiving party how they want to interpret it.
This sounds like word jugglery. Next.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's say I starve you for a day, and that's Thursday. And Friday in the evening, I bring you here, and then the first thing that I do is give you food. And you may lie, but the happiness that you feel after having a meal after, let's say, 48 hours or so, I believe that you may not express it, but you will feel that there is some sort of.
That's just biological needs. Anyone can tell you that. That doesn't prove God.
Man, you're a tough one. I'm going to say that the reason God exists is because we have not been able to biologically recreate life. So therefore, like, there has to be an original, like, if you go back, like, for instance, you go back to your parents, grandparents, so forth, there has to be somebody who started the whole process, because you can't create life from without having life already. So meaning that you need two people that are alive to produce an offspring. So anyway, life comes from life, and so when you kind of go back to the origins of it, there has to be an original spark of life that created all of that, or basically allowed all of that to happen. So that's how I know, for me, I know that God exists because there's an original.
That may work for you, but I'm not convinced. Because even recently, scientists have created artificially synthesized cells, have injected it with DNA tissue, and then it started replicating. Yeah.
Yeah, but not into like the whole person with brain, capability, full ecosystems.
Give it 50 years.
Yeah, right.
Who else?
God is like something we feel like cosmic energy, but we don't see that physical. We just experience that it exists everywhere. Something that it's immaterial.
That sounds like a creation of the mind.
Okay.
This guy.
Sounds exactly.
She exists.
When you Kirtan or meditation, you will experience that energy. That is a God. I feel.
He's repeating all of our.
So why don't you believe in God?
I haven't seen him.
You haven't seen him. Do you believe in love?
No.
Don't believe in Do you have children? Do you have children?
I'm not seeing them right now, but I do.
I mean, no, but do you have children?
I do.
And so when your children get hurt or something like that, what is that feeling that comes over you and that you want to help them?
Chemicals, because they contain my genetic material.
They contain your genetic material. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking more about what's the feeling you feel.
Chemicals.
Still chemicals, huh? Okay, so so let me say this. I don't have the flower with me, but can you smell a rose, let's say?
I can.
Oh, you can, but you can't see the smell, right? The
I'm sure
aroma.
with well, no, but there are scopes that can identify the molecules in the air emanating from the rose that hits my
Okay,
nose.
good. So let's go to do you see this entire manifestation as in like a really good order? Like we're born, we've got amazing skill sets, our brains are so powerful, Nature has a way of, the 4 seasons, everything's kind of like running automatically.
Yeah.
So where do you think that automaticness of our world comes from?
Everything that wasn't already crashed and burned long ago.
Everything that wasn't already, but I'm saying what is right now?
It's a state of equilibrium.
I know. So when you have this state of equilibrium, where, like, how is that? Who created that state?
Big Bang.
But then who created Big Bang?
It's eternal.
So it was. How come it's not Big Banging right now then?
Not time yet.
Okay.
Anyway, this thing went forever. This thing went forever. But the point is, I don't think there's anything that we could say that would at least directly, intellectually say like, yes, God exists. Shambhavi?
I I disagree.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you think about material existence, how does that come into being?
Yeah, we're going around in circles now with him.
Yes.
No, but like if you think about that, if you say that it's all chemical composition or it's all molecules, then why is it that it's not replicated?
We don't know that.
That
We
was
don't
my
know that.
argument. He refuted because he said now they have cloning and all that kind of stuff.
We don't preach to non-believers.
Anyway.
It's an offense.
I didn't want the whole session to be about I guess this is too much fun.
God exists because he doesn't care to prove that he exists.
Well, I don't care to refute that argument.
Uh,
But anyway, the idea here is that if our worldview exists entirely on logic, I need to see with whatever senses I've been given to believe that logic alone is not enough to take us there. There's also an element of faith. And the really interesting thing is, Krishna totally supports this idea too. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 11, he says, "Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be." So, for those of us that are familiar with stories about Krishna, there are so many stories where Krishna proves his godliness. He exhibits it, like lifting a hill with his pinky and totally effortlessly. And if you can imagine, not just lifting a hill, but the effort required to get it up the first time and then how to safely put it down without crushing yourself, that's pretty impressive. But he also exhibits pastimes like, how many of us know the story of how Krishna physically left this planet? How many have heard that story? So very short. He was in a tree. A hunter came by, shot him with an arrow because he thought it was a bird, I think. And not only shot Krishna with an arrow in his foot. How many people die from getting shot by an arrow in their foot? But Krishna chose that as the way to leave. So somebody that already has that belief that Krishna is not God will say, how can he be God? He was shot by an arrow and died, just like everybody else. Totally ignoring how fantastic it is that he died with an arrow in his foot. But either way, he exhibits these pastimes in a way that if I already have the conception that this is not God, there may not even be a God. He might be some very elevated or highly qualified person, whatever. But he's not God, look at this. So he exhibits those pastimes to reinforce that underlying belief, our preconceived notions that we're already going into the situation with, because others will see that as an exhibition of his godliness and that it was just time for him to end these things. Because it's such a really odd and remarkable way to just leave. So there's also the story, and it happens a lot with us to go about life and just because the things around us are so much more present, so much more visible, it's easy to kind of take out the idea of the concept of a creator in our everyday existence. So whenever I want to enjoy my things I have, the relationships around me, whenever I want to see everything in relation to me, that's an exhibition of placing my faith, seeing the world through, we'll call it a material lens, seeing things as independent from the source, from the creator. And it's not just us as students or professionals or anyone in between that succumbs to this. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a story of how even Lord Brahma, now it's said that Lord Brahma's body is made of intelligence. Like, not even just like we have intelligence, his body is intelligence. And he forgot this.
Mhm.
So in this story, Krishna, 5,000 plus years ago, was in Vrindavan, playing with his friends, having lunch with his friends, and herding the calves. And Krishna went away to find the calves. They had walked away into the forest nearby. And while he was away, Lord Brahma comes and he kidnaps all of Krishna's friends. And he kidnaps all of the calves. And Krishna comes back and can't find his calves or his friends. And so he expands himself to look and act exactly like every single one of his friends and every single one of the calves. And they had a lot of calves, and he had a lot of friends. And he did this for 1 year. And when Lord Brahma, again, reminder, his body is made of intelligence, came and saw this, his intelligence was exceeded. Like, he could not understand what he was seeing, and then realized, I made a big mistake. So if someone like that, of that caliber, can, let's say, have an interruption, because Lord Brahma is also a very fantastic devotee. So I'm not saying that to just like say, oh, we're here in Friday night VVS and we're better than Lord Brahma. Like, that's not the point. And no, that's not true either. But that forgetfulness is so easy to happen. So when we see something and it forms our beliefs, we act on it until we see something else that shifts our beliefs. Now, that seeing could be through the physical gross senses, kind of like what you were describing earlier, Mohit, or it could be things that are more refined, more subtle in this world, like the experience of love, or that feeling of peace or connectivity that you were talking about, and so many other ways that it comes to us in a very personal way. So just to go back to the idea of seeing is believing, just like anything in this world, there are limits to it. Now, to take the example of who is my father, what you are sharing, there's a few ways to do that. One is I see my mother, I understand this is my mother, and so I ask my mother who my father is, and I believe it. And then I see this person as my father, and that's it, end of story. The other way is I'm going to do my own experiment, try to interview all the men in the world that might be within an age range that could possibly be my father, hope that I can interview them before they die, and then hope I didn't miss anybody in the process. So trying to understand everything through our gross and limited senses, it's not practical. And so in these pictures, this one was an AI generated, on the left, yeah, your left, was an AI generated image of somebody questioning the credentials of a pilot. So there are some things that we just take on implicit faith, even just to function in this world. Like if every passenger needed to see the pilot's credentials, the flight attendant's credentials, or Uber driver's background check, and so on, nothing would function. There's an implicit trust and implicit faith in just even our everyday interactions. Now, one of the challenges also, to give some perspective on this, seeing is believing is seeing, is that boy with his hand up. How many of us view that as a threatening gesture? Okay, how many of us view it as a kind, happy gesture? Let's say every day this boy came up to you, and when he did that, he punched you in the face. How does that affect your perspective of this cute, cuddly image?
He's just taunting.
He's what?
He's taunting.
He's taunting, yeah.
Gonna get it back.
Karma's another week. So if we had that experience, let's say this boy came up to us and hit us every week when we met this boy, then this gesture would be seen as threatening because I believe this boy is a threat. And then 1 week he changes things up, he approaches the same way, but when he does this, there's actually a present and a thank you card and an I'm sorry card. So, I mean, that's kind of a silly example, but the idea of my beliefs, how I see a situation is affected by what I believe is going to happen. So kind of certain pattern or predictability in our interactions. So this is just a quote from Bhagavad Gita talking about how Arjuna also reached that limit of his material intelligence, his understanding, when he's just kind of gone so far with his, I can't fight for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. And have any of us ever gotten that worked up? Maybe we're just kind of torn inside about a decision, and yeah, and then you just reach a point of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So this was Arjuna's moment. Even Arjuna faced that kind of an experience. Different situation, but similar results. And so he says, now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you, Krishna, to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. And that's the moment where the door opened for Arjuna to start to get perspective, to see the world around him in a different way. There's that element of, we'll say surrender, but it's not like the white flag, I give up kind of a surrender. It's opening ourselves to possibilities beyond that which I currently believe or understand. And so when we open ourselves to expand our limits, Bhagavad Gita also talks about just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. So it's not enough just to go to people and say, I don't understand, tell me what to do. We need to make sure that we can trust what's coming out of the person that we're asking for that advice, for that guidance. It's because anytime we ask for advice, because one of the points of advice is to expand our understanding, get a new perspective, right? So it's trying to see the world in a different way than what I am personally capable of. And so Krishna is advising us that the self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you, Arjuna, because they have seen the truth. So when we're talking about this spiritual path, this spiritual practice, this journey of Krishna consciousness, why is this important, especially in relation to seeing and believing?
You just take it for granted otherwise.
Could you expand on that?
So, like, if I feel like the person that I'm talking to is either same level as me or inferior as me, I'll be like, whatever, he doesn't know, he's also in the same boat. Or, and also like...
Yeah, drowning people can't help drowning people.
Exactly. And also like when I need to also be in a position like, oh, I'm not good. Only then I'm open to that change.
Okay, yeah. Other perspectives?
Yeah, I think that as we saw from chapter 2, that Arjuna was at a point where what he saw and what he believed, he was already confused by it. So
yeah,
he expanded his limits, like what should I do? I don't know. So that's why he reached out to open up other perspective.
Yeah. All right. Yes.
Like the master, that means Krishna, has seen more worlds than it. Like he's more experienced than him. So it's like that. Like he's asking Arjun to surrender to him because he knows what is best for him because he has seen the whole world.
Yeah. How can I conceive the inconceivable? Because if I can conceive it, then it's not inconceivable, right? So we need somebody who can conceive what I think is inconceivable in order to conceive it. Like it's not something I can do on my own. So to your point that you're raising, that's exactly it. That if I want to see what's beyond this wall, it's not possible for me to know what's behind this wall. I mean, I walk through it, but you get the idea. But if, let's say, Nitin is standing by the door, he can tell me what exactly is behind there. And so like that, one who has seen the truth, one who has that higher spiritual understanding can relay, oh, it's like this. And this is how you get to this point. These are the things to do. These are the things to avoid that will not help you to get to that place. So it's just like, we all talk to seniors in our batches to tell us like which classes to take, which professors to avoid, which assignments or exams are going to be tricky, right? Spiritual life is no different. We trust the people that are further down the path, the process, to help guide our experience, to help make it as joyful and stress-free as possible. And so we'll continue. Chapter 9 in Bhagavad Gita. There's a lot here, so I'm just going to read for a short bit, so bear with me on this. So it's the first 10 texts of this chapter, but it's really nice. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend," so a friendly disposition. One point that you were raising about, like, if I see everyone as my equals or below, I'm not going to receive anything. So if we take the concept of mercy, mercy flows. Have we heard that phrase before? Mercy flows. So in order for something to flow, we can think of water, it has to go down, right? So for us to receive that set of beliefs to see the world, and of course reconcile it with our intelligence, we need to be in that position of receiving. So even if it's with a friend, and let's say I'm receiving advice from that friend, I'm temporarily putting myself in that position of subservient, humble, receiving, and vice versa. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so continuing. Text 2. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, nonviolence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Not much ambiguity there. And so Krishna is giving Arjuna this conception to help him understand that which is not possible for him to come to a conclusion on his own, and that which he may not directly see. So what is the outcome of this, of Krishna explaining this? One, it takes Arjuna, and if we also internalize this, it takes us away from the conception of trying to ascribe material concepts to God. God is a highly elevated man. Krishna is a highly elevated man. Krishna said some nice things, some wisdom, helps people lead good lives, but he got shot and killed by an arrow in the heel. You know, it takes us from that conception of seeing matter in God and takes us to the other direction, which is when Krishna is asserting all these things, it's seeing God in matter, not seeing matter in God. Does that make sense? So I can start to understand everything in this world around me. It's not separate from Krishna's energy. This is an extension of Krishna, his creation. And so I can start to see, he, in other parts of the Bhagavad Gita, asserts himself, I'm the strength of the strong. I'm the fragrance of the earth. I'm the taste in water. Ways to remember Krishna. We drink water. We smell dirt sometimes. The light of the sun and the moon. We can think about that even just on a nice sunny day or a beautiful moonlit night on the beach. That's Krishna. So, and there's a relationship. Not just that he's the source, but we're invited to see the world, and in feelings of gratitude and seeing this world around us, we're invited to have a loving relationship with him. And it's a unique relationship that we can all experience. We just have to see it. One thing that I was remembering last Sunday and I want to share again is that the sun is always shining. Regardless if there are clouds covering the sun or not, the sun is always shining. Just like that, that relationship with Krishna is always there. It's just a matter of, do I see it? And so, there was this book that I read years and years and years ago, and it was a quote of a quote, but I'll just invite you to read this. It's really beautiful. At least I found it really beautiful, just on the nature of love. And silence for a few seconds, and then we'll talk. Because with love comes that possibility to see the world. So an example that I've sometimes heard is, let's just think of a person that in our lives that is very, very dear to us. And now in your minds, think about something that is very, very important to that person that is very, very dear to us. Could be a favorite food, it could be a song, it could be a picture, it could be a memory, whatever it is. So now anytime you would see that food or hear that song or see that picture or whatever it might be, you're immediately brought back to that person and your relationship with them, right? So just like that, seeing elicited that belief in the relationship. And the belief in the relationship helped you see it's not just like a thing that you just interact with, it's now a symbol of that relationship and that love that you experience. So toward the closing, there's this video. So there's this whole series available on YouTube, Memories of Srila Prabhupada. This is a disciple, and I'll hold off saying more about her till after this, but absolutely one of my favorites, and it's, I think, perfect for today. Oh no, why is it not playing? There we go, I have to go here. No, why not playing? Oh no.
Should we like open it in a new tab?
Maybe, I think I'm just gonna escape here. Yeah, I don't want to let technology get in the way of the experience, so maybe I'll just play it. I tested it. I'll just click on the link, that's fine, that'll work.
And another wonderful experience I had, this was in Los Angeles.
Oh, the audio's not
Clean
connected.
Srila Prabhupada's quarters. And this was in the later years. I had the privilege of cleaning Srila Prabhupada's bathroom. So I got all the nectar. Like we got the eucalyptus twigs, and we used to go around the bathtub ring and we'd take the bathtub leftover of his mustard seed oil, and that would be a delicacy which we would take ourselves very greedily and also distribute. And any other little kind of things that were left around in the bathroom. So one day I was cleaning and feeling very blissful, and I was singing and very absorbed. And it had been a kind of a nice morning, but then it had started to rain. But I didn't know that, and Srila Prabhupada came back early. And everybody else seemed to have somehow gotten down those stairs, but I didn't get to go down the stairs. And there was only one way down out of Prabhupada's room with those stairs. So I was just finishing up the floor of his bathroom, and I realized that I was stuck. And I didn't know where to hide because I was right on that little landing there. So I kind of squeezed myself into the corner, and I kind of put my head down. And Prabhupada came up the stairs very vigorously. And he was talking to one gentleman. And this an Indian gentleman I don't know. I don't recall anything about him. He was just, maybe he'd been on the morning walk. And they were discussing it. At one point, Prabhupada was asking him some questions about Krishna. And I think the man had said something about the sunrise being very beautiful. And then Prabhupada said, yes, it is somewhat beautiful. He goes, but it is Krishna's sunrise. He said, Krishna is so beautiful. Krishna is so beautiful. And then he just kind of stopped. He was standing there, and he just kind of stopped. He said, even one tiny ray emanating from the tiniest of his tips of his toenails is 1,000,000 times more effulgent and beautiful than anything in this world. And then he was so full of that vision. It was just sitting there in the room. It was very intense. And then he said to the man, you don't know? And then the man said, like, he didn't say anything. And then Prabhupada turned to me, because I guess he had seen me all along, and he said, and I was looking up, and he said, can you see? And I said, no, Srila Prabhupada, I can't see. And then Prabhupada looked at me in this beautiful, deep way, and he said, I want you to see.
So what I find the most beautiful part of this is that, so when these videos were taken, would you believe she was terminally ill with cancer and left her body soon after?
No.
And terminally ill with cancer is painful. What did her face say? She saw. It's possible. It's real. And so we're all invited in this, through the Bhagavad Gita, through these teachings, through this process, we're all invited to see. And it just starts with that initial belief that maybe there's something beyond what I directly understand, what I can directly perceive with my senses. And then it may be the same classes, the same apartments, the same opportunities in life, but we see them in a whole new way. So that's what we're invited to, a whole new way of seeing the world. Hare Krishna.
Great.